Okay, with the creative team of First Grade Headache, Jacqueline and Jajube. Jajube is the director and co-producer. Jacqueline is the star, the writer, and the producer of the film. First Grade Headache. Well, I have a son going into first grade right now. I pick up my kids from school and I see crazy parents. So when I saw your film, I'm not one of them, by the way. Maybe I am. I don't even know. Sometimes you don't even know that you are crazy, right? But you see the craziness of some of these parents. Like, so I'm laughing already. So when I watched your film, I'm like, yeah, I totally get this film. So I'm curious, for you, Jacqueline, where did you how what inspired you to write this script?
Yeah, so I grew up with my mom as an elementary school teacher my whole life. So I think I'd always just kind of, been around that, vibe and, hearing, some stories and stuff like that. Nothing like that crazy. And then I also started teaching music as well,
Okay.
part-time. So I guess like just those thoughts and ideas were kind of just swirling around. And then yeah, and then for me one day I was just kind of playing around with log lines, trying to like find like, funny, ironic things. I was also trying to write a horror film. And then for some reason this idea came to me. Yeah, and then just kind of went from there. Yeah.
There's a good like a take on our society now, the Western society of like the overparenting. Our kids are always right, they can't be punished. So the people don't know the concept is that your character is a first grade teacher, and basically she gets kidnapped by or she gets the parents break into her house and basically essentially kidnap her because they're mad about your teaching progress for their child, I guess.
Yes, the D.
Yeah. I have
Mhm.
a feeling this has happened before. I have a feeling this story has happened before somewhere in the world.
Ooh, I wonder. That'd be messed up. That'd be pretty messed up.
So Jube, when did you come into the fold for this project?
A few drafts in, I believe. Yeah, Jacqueline had sent it to me and asked me for some feedback. And so we met up and I just gave her like as much feedback as I could think of that would be useful because I didn't really want to change anything. I didn't really want to like override any of her ideas because it's already really funny and really, really interesting. And as you're saying, like quite plausible, even though we hope it hasn't really happened. And from there, I was just letting her know, I was like, if you're looking for a director, I could totally direct and we really had a same kind of idea of how the look of the short could be and the whole world of it. And I've also taught myself, I've taught acting coaching, so I could relate to a lot of parents with a lot of opinions and a
Yeah.
lot of overbearingness. And so it was nice to see it just taken to the nth degree.
Got it. And do you wrote you're doing the drafts? Did you Jacqueline, you always wanted to star in the film? That's the sort of one of your goals, writing
Yeah,
it?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've done it before, where I've written, co-produced and acted in a film. So yeah, I think I loved doing that. And I wanted to do it again. And I want to keep doing it. It's fun.
And yeah, it's a great role too, right? So
It is, yeah, yeah. It's very fun. I had a lot of fun shooting it as an actor as well. Yeah.
yeah, there's like I said, it's a comedy, but then there are there's societal takes in it. There's great kind of allegories, like even from being a teacher, right? Like it's a crap job, right? And you don't get paid, especially in Canada, it's different. You actually get paid well, but in the States, you don't get paid that well. And it's like and then so then you don't get the best and the brightest, even though the kids are the ones who are. You figure that if you're bringing up the next generation, you'd want the best people to teach these kids. Wouldn't that be a grand concept? But I get they don't. So they basically have these teachers who are like who start hating their jobs because they're burned out, just like your character.
Hmm. Yeah.
You really nailed it on the head. It's a bit like sometimes schools, especially public schools, are treated as babysitting rather than education. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, what are we doing? Are we really trying to create a new generation of people who are engaged and can do their best, or are we just trying to like shuffle them through?
And then there's political ideologies now that's happening where they want the kids to be taught like their ideology, the parents' ideology, right?
Yes,
Whatever that is.
Mhm. Yeah.
completely. Yeah,
Yeah.
which it gets dangerous once again in the public school because so many people have different ideologies, as you're saying, and so it's like, how do you make it all work together? And so you probably can't make it all work together. You kind of have to
No,
choose.
yeah, like sex education and like basically evolution, like all these like kind of like how the world's you know what I mean, like all these kind of basic things in my subjective world, but now it's becoming an issue, right? So
Very politicized, yeah, here at home as well as the States.
yeah. All right, so tell me about the like starting production. So Jajube, you guys work together. You kind of had like, I guess locations are key for this film.
Yes, that was the hardest part. Just we Jacqueline had wanted to film it in September, and I think there was a time when we were considering filming in the summer, and that probably would have been a good idea in a certain sense because schools would be out and the like. But we actually ended up filming it. I want to say it was the first weekend of November. Yeah, so the first
Mhm.
weekend of November, and so we had to coordinate finding a school. We had also considered trying community centers, doing a lot of calling, a lot of emailing, a lot of people not getting back to us. And then Jacqueline can tell you about the whole fiasco with finding the location for the majority of the film.
Yeah, the whole so originally it was supposed to be the kidnapping scene was in a basement, and actually it was supposed to be her basement. So like they break in to her house and take her to the basement, tie her up and all that.
Yeah.
That was the original plan. Turns out it's really hard to find a basement to film in Toronto, apparently. So what actually ended up being easier was renting a theater space. And just making it, then I kind of just changed it that they kidnapped her and they took her to their community theater's rehearsal space, where they do the whole scene from there. So yeah, it turns out, yeah, not easy to find a basement. Yeah.
Well, I figured the finding the school would be the hardest because schools don't want you to shoot anywhere.
We were very, very lucky. So we ended up filming at a school near to my home, and I happened to find a very compassionate principal who really understood. Like he was excited about it and was like, "That's totally fine." I think it's also because the school is a public school and an alternative school, so maybe
Oh,
it's
okay.
more open to ideas in general.
Yeah.
So that was really, really lovely because the different places we looked into, we wanted to coordinate it where it was also near where we're going to film the inside her house scenes, and so it worked out so nicely. But I was just like, thank goodness that that principal is just really easygoing.
Yeah, because like usually they have to go up the chain, right? They have to go to the superintendent, and then the superintendent has to go to the board, blah blah blah. And then of course they don't want to do anything because there's gonna look they read your script, it looks like a bad light, right? There's a negative connotation, right? So
I think we were lucky because specifically it's outdoors that we were filming rather than indoors. If
yeah,
it was indoors, we would have had to do all of those things you're talking about,
yeah,
and we've had to involve permits and the like. But because it was outdoors and I live in a neighborhood where people use that school on the weekends, community members very frequently without permission,
yeah.
and we were mostly in the parking lot. The principal was very kind. He's like it's okay if you just treat it as you're someone in the community like all these other people in the community who usually use it without our permission. And I think it's also because we were letting him know we're a really small time short film. We're not like $1 million
Yeah.
thing, so we don't really have the budget to do an excessive amount of funding of the location. So yeah.
So so talk to me about the rest of the rest of the cast. Where did you find them?
That was kind of a combination of the two of us. We've both been in the industry for many, many years. So we were kind of, some of them were people that I've worked with in the past that I really liked. And then some were also people who Jajube has worked with in the past and really liked. So it was kind of 50-50 maybe. Yeah, right, Jajube?
Yeah, and I'd add that we were surprised and delighted that the two actors who played Joan and Melissa, the main parents who take her hostage, we didn't know this when we cast them, but they happen to be excellent friends, like very, very close, really, really in each other's lives. And so when I think it was either when we did a read through on Zoom or in person rehearsal, that's when we learned. We're like, what? How? Like, this works perfectly. Because then they already had a good rapport with each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a huge city, but there's a small community of actors, I guess.
To a
Mhm.
degree, yes.
Yeah. Everybody knows somebody like 2 degrees away.
It's true.
Right. So yeah, it's really great. So you start the film. I'm curious about like this the scene kind of touches like the first scene of the film is through the fence, right?
Yes.
So it's like metaphorically you're saying that she's in prison already, right? So
Yes, and that wasn't even my idea. I'm now struggling to remember whether it was our DOP's idea or our camera operator's idea, but it was something on the day that was a beautiful decision because we didn't originally know which part of the school we're going to film at. And once we
yeah.
decided that part, then it was like, oh, this looks great. It's, as you said, that metaphor.
And then the parents, you wanted her to be, I don't know, Jacqueline, I don't know how tall you are. All I know is that the parent is a lot taller than you, which demands that physical. I'm sure when you're doing auditions, you wanted that someone who's like a foot taller than you.
I actually have a great story about that.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the actor's actual height, but when I was speaking with the costume designer and I was talking about my vision for it and collaborating with her, I was like, oh, I'm fine if that actor who plays Melissa has heels or flats, whatever she wants. I don't care. And then the costume designer did not give her those options. Instead, she was like heels. And so part
Yeah.
of why that actor towers over Jacqueline is because she's in very, very tall shoes.
Yeah. No, there's like I'm just pointing out like the with the fence, like you're showing all these kind of like nice directorial touches that subconsciously tell the audience like what state that Jacqueline's character is in, right? So I'm
Well, you
just
said
like
it.
breaking down your film from the second viewing, right? So
Completely. And I think
yeah,
one of the biggest things that I hope Jacqueline agrees, we were able to assemble a team of people that we really trust and who have lovely experience and who are also really up to being extremely collaborative with me. And so that's why I keep shouting out their ideas because I would have meetings with them, discuss my vision, and then they would add on to it. So it was this beautiful mix of my ideas and them building on it.
there's almost like a lonely aspect with the character too, right? Because you show she's like sitting in the tub the next scene, and I guess there's a Liam, right? Or yeah, I wrote down Liam. She's like, but at the same time, she's like alone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely a huge thing that we wanted to highlight, like just how sad and lonely her life is, and how work is kind of taking it over in a sense of that she doesn't really have the time or the energy to spend with her loved ones, even her boyfriend, who is Liam, and to show that isolation and that depression living in and that burnout really taking over all aspects of her life.
Yeah, my mother was a kindergarten teacher, and she never said anything, right? But you knew that you just don't talk to her for about 20 minutes when she gets home.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
But but it wasn't like there was nothing negative, right? It was just something that you just had to process, right?
Well, especially kindergartners because they're screaming, they're crying, they're pulling each other's hair, they're fighting. Like that's a lot of energy to try and unwind from every day.
Yeah, it's just the energy, right? But it's like because like I have two kids and I can barely function, right? I can't imagine having 20 kids for 6 hours, right? So,
Yeah.
so where did you shoot the like kind of like tying up scene? Where was that? Did you just kind of because like almost the way you set it up, you could have shot it anywhere, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, that was a Luna theater space. Kind of yeah, west, I guess, West End, Northwest Toronto. Yeah, they were super, super lovely. Very, very yeah, kind, letting us shoot there for the day. Yeah, it was a lovely space.
Is there? I'm curious about the parents are female, right? So I was curious about that in the script. Did you ever consider being one of them being a male? That it's like a female dynamic, I guess, right? I was curious about that process.
Well, Jacqueline, do you remember when we were, because we had a bit of time where we were having trouble casting Joan, the secondary parent, and Jacqueline was like, what if it's a man? And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think like originally when I wrote it, it just came out as, you know, they're yeah, the two of them are female, and then we have our random
Yeah.
Rob. Is that his name? I forget what I named him. Rob. Character. Yeah, and then yeah, I guess so in my mind it was those were their genders, but then as we were like trying to cast and stuff like that, I was like, well, maybe we can see if there's, another way that we can imagine the Joan character. But I'm glad we didn't. I'm very happy with the actors that we found and the performances that we got from them. So
Yeah.
I personally, like when I first read it, I think if it had originally been a male parent, it it would have a different dynamic, something about woman on woman, like this intimidation.
Mhm.
There's a certain safety of, oh, they're not going to go all the way. Oh, they're mothers. Like there's a certain expectations of mothers still being caring even when they're in a intimidating situation. So it's kind of like flipping the motherly caring thing on its head, but also knowing, oh, we probably won't go too far. So for me, I think it would have read very differently if it
Yeah,
had
oh,
been
yeah.
one of the parents male. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would have had a different element of danger. We might have actually ended up leaning more into horror rather than keeping it
100%. Yeah.
dark
Yeah.
comedy. Yeah, and
We've
then
seen a lot of like, we don't need to see any more of it, of like women tied up and a man kind of hovering over her, right? It's just you're trying, if you're trying to be funny, it's not funny, if that makes sense.
exactly, yeah.
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 So Jacqueline, so you're wrapped up in a towel, you're all tied up, but you're also producing the film. So you're spending a day in a towel tied up trying to produce a film at the same time.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, I think luckily, I think Jajube and I, like, our pre-production, we, really planned that properly so that on the day, as much as we could just be actor and director, like we could be. So I think, we really tried just to prepare as much as we could so that, yeah, on the day, we don't have to think so much about producing, and just just kind of be in our roles as actor and director. But yeah, obviously, yeah, there's a part of our brains that's always, is craft good, is this the way, location, people and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a fun challenge to kind of divide your brain in different ways.
And so how is post-production? Like you said you're very organized, you're very prepared. Did anything change in the script from the, like, or was it a relatively seamless edit?
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I found post production has been the most interesting because we started it in November/December, so it's winter, things are winding down, and then January things have to wind back up. And so one of the biggest things was the crew who we actually worked with in post production. They were working on multiple projects, they didn't always have the time, and so some things took longer than we expected. And I think Jacqueline can also speak more to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think yeah, it took well, there were just a few things that we for example, the basketball hit. I don't know if we should give that away, but
Up to you.
that one, we actually ended up having a basketball added in post-production,
Oh,
actually.
gotcha.
And so just like little things like that, we're like, oh, okay, we need to like tweak some things. But luckily
Nobody
we
wants
have,
to get hit with a basketball, like that hurts, right?
Jacqueline did.
I wanted to. I wanted to be hit by a basketball. No one let me. So, but anyways, we have a wonderful, wonderful editor, Anant Singh, who really made it look so beautiful and made it exactly as we had envisioned it originally, I think. So yeah, we had a really good team. And just, yeah, some funny little things with the basketball that was pretty tricky to get done. But all in all, yes, we're very happy with how it turned out.
It's amazing that you can do that though now.
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
very happy because we're like, oh god, we're gonna have to reshoot it. How many people do we need? It's gonna be a totally different season because here in Toronto we have all 4 seasons, and so we're
Yeah.
just like, if we reshoot it, how do we fake all the leaves? And so it was really beautiful that we could get a VFX artist to make that look reasonable, look quite good, rather than trying to figure out how to reshoot it.
And then then you hired someone to do the sound design then?
Yes. Yeah. We hired Ben, last name though, I'm trying to remember.
I
Yeah.
can look up while you were doing that.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful sound team. Yes. So we have Donnie Ivy, who was our sound recordist on set, who was wonderful, wonderful to work with. And then our other dear friend Ben helped us out with
Ben
sound.
Srokos. His last name was unfamiliar. Srokos.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful guy. Wonderful.
And Ben, yeah, Ben was really lovely to work with. He does a lot of post production sound, and he like took us through his whole process. We like had a meeting before he actually dived in and started working on it. And a lot of his intuition, a lot of things he wanted to add, because we didn't want we didn't think we needed music for this short specifically, but a lot of like just sound to make it feel more realistic and to like punch it up. And so much of what he was saying, I was like, I already had that in my mind. So it was really lovely that him and I were really on the same page about how to populate this world sonically.
So what did you guys think of? We sent the audience to you. What did you think of the audience feedback video that we sent you?
We loved it. Yeah, it was so fun. It's so fun to yeah, kind of get people's reactions. You know, when we're working on something for so long, you kind of forget if it's funny or not, or you kind of like forget like what works, what, you know, when you're looking at something for so long. So yeah, I think getting these reactions, I was like, oh, fun. Like they get it. They really get what we were trying to say and what we were trying to communicate with it. So yeah, it was super, super fun.
And it was so lovely to hear all their insights and how they elaborated and how it hit them personally. It was really a special feeling, especially because even when we do have it screened in person, we won't necessarily hear individual feedback from different audience members. So it was just like felt like such a gift to be able to hear all that.
And so Jacqueline, you mentioned, thank you. You mentioned before that you just shot a film, you're in post-production. Jajube, what are you up to now? Are you working on something?
Oh, I am in the midst of like developing new things. I don't quite know what's next. So it's a percolating kind of time to see whether I'm going to direct something next or co-write something with a friend. Also, as an actor, I'm working on what my next theater project will be, because I'm also focused. I do theater as well as TV film.
That's amazing. Well, I wish you guys the best of success. Don't go anywhere after I press stop because I have something to mention with you. And then, but great film, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.